Record
All right, the
meeting.
meeting is being recorded.
Good morning. My name is Mellissa Ruryk, and I'm presenting to you today, and I hope you can tell that I don't take myself too seriously, and I don't want you to either, but we are going to learn a few things today. So I do have some experience in this field. I've been working with words for a number of years, and I really strongly believe in the use of plain language. I hope that you can understand everything that I tell you today. I'm going to show you a few things around words. I will guarantee that anyone watching this, attending, or watching the recording is going to know at least one of the things I tell you. Some of it, I mean, a lot of it's not new, but something should be new to every one person. And of course, 9 things is just a number. I'm really not sure how many I fit in here, but just counting. Okay, so the very first thing I would recommend is that you always go field shading in your Windows screen. I'm just going to pop to the next field and show you that in Word options, next screen, in Word options there are a number of things in the advanced view that I would say click on or click off. One of them is definitely show field shading all the time, because then you won't accidentally delete a field. For instance, a cross-reference field, you want to make sure that if you have fields set up to populate data in different places of your document, you want to make sure that you don't delete those, because then they'll go missing and it'll just show the field, and that's not a good thing. I'm also going to take off my Christmas bracelets because I've been jingling. There we go. That should be better for the recording. I don't like seeing drawings and text boxes on my screen. I do like to see them, so it says, I've ticked it off saying show the actual drawings on the screen, but don't show me picture placeholders. I also like to see when I've made something into a bookmark. And when you make something into you say show bookmark, it will show light gray parentheses, square brackets that is. They will show up around the words that you bookmarked, and that can help you find the bookmark later. Another thing is, a really quick thing to do is, I will just click this little icon on. If this is your window here, your Word window, you have a status bar at the bottom. It also is available during when you're in PowerPoint, and sometimes it's there for Excel as well. So basically, for Microsoft products, right-click in an empty area of the right-click in an area on the status bar down below, and it will give you a long list of things that you can have showing up on the status bar. The one I would recommend more than anything is to show what section you're in. So as a minimum, say select to show sections. But I noticed when I was doing this the other day, I didn't realize that you could actually find out what line number you're on by doing this. It will show the line number, and I've highlighted that here in the pop-up window. It will actually tell you what line number you're on. The screenshot that I took shows you that I use text boundaries, shows me where my text, what the space before and after, and what the text boundaries on the page, the margins, are. In Word 2010, it used to just show me a box, but Word 2013 and 16, which I'm using now because I use Windows 365, it shows every single line, which can be really distracting, but if you can get past that, I find it's good to know where you are on the window. I also always click on this and have up here, which is called the show unprintable characters or show formatting marks, because I started out using word processing way back when. I call those codes, because that's what they were called in WordPerfect days. So I'll say always show your codes. That tells you where you are in the actual document, and so when you're pasting things, that gets to be very handy. If you are dealing with a small screen or large resolution so that you can see things, you can minimize the ribbon by clicking the down arrow that's in the upper right. that gets rid of a good 1.5 inches on your screen, and that can really help things get bigger. I'm getting old, as the opening slide said. I'm plenty 9, so I like to have really big font on my windows. I also have 3 monitors. If you can use more than 1 monitor, consider using portrait orientation if you do a lot of documentation. You can actually change your monitor orientation to portrait instead of landscape. You go to your control panel, select display, and select adjust resolution, and that is where you can say that you want to have a portrait resolution, a portrait orientation. And I find that very, very helpful. Moving on, another thing I like to do these days is have my captions always be at the top of a window. It used to be that it used to be a rule that captions would go below figures but above tables. So if you only are ever going to distribute your documents in print, feel free to stick with that. That's the way it has always been done. So you can stick with that and feel pretty comfortable. But just be aware that today, in the world of hyperlinked documents being read online and the internet, hyperlinking, when you click the link, it repositions the reader's view to the actual caption. That means if your caption is at the bottom of the image itself is actually above the fold. It's out of sight. So when your reader clicks the caption or clicks the link to the caption, they're going to end up seeing the caption, but they actually have to scroll up to see the image. Now, obviously, if it's a table, the table's going to be below. That's fine if you've done it the old-fashioned way. But it's a style issue at my company where I work now, and we always put all of our captions at the top of the image or the table. And lots of times we're pasting images of tables, so that can present a conundrum. I say the reader doesn't know whether he's looking at an image or not, as a rule. So if it looks like a table, call it a table. Don't say figure 3 when it's a table. That makes it confusing to the reader, I believe. It's also, so be consistent with whatever you do, and best practice is to always refer to the figure or table in the surrounding content, preferably ahead of time. But if you have to, if you refer back to something, I would say if you're only going to refer to the figure or table once, do that before the figure or table is encountered, and go ahead and refer to it again afterwards if you need to. Another quick tip about captions, if you are used to using these, you know that the actual the caption dialog box comes up and it says figure based on what label you've chosen, that is. It says figure, and then it has the automatic numbering. Now, how do you make it a standard to have this or that or a colon? So a hyphen, a dash, or a colon. You may or may not be aware that if you type on your Word window, space, hyphen, space, word, and hit the space bar, it doesn't even have to be a word, it's just a letter after that space, hyphen, space, letter, and then hit the space bar, it will change your hyphen into a dash. And I might be saying that the wrong way, I'm sorry. But the short one, it'll turn it into the long one for you if you hit the space bar. So sometimes people don't know that, so they'll have typed something, they'll hit the space bar, they don't even realize that it changes it to the longer dash, and off they go. And then you have a mix in your document of short dashes and long dashes. And if you're slightly OCD like I am, that can drive you crazy. Or if you have an editor who's even more OCD than you are, that can drive them crazy. Therefore, my style guide says only use a full colon and a space. And that gets rid of the whole controversy. Now you don't need to worry, you don't need to go back and look and see if some of your dashes are dashes and some of your dashes are hyphens. Just use a colon and a space, but adopt a standard and be consistent. Of course, that's the rule of all tech writers, right? Now, do you ever work in a document with headers and footers? You've got them all nicely set up, and you probably use the table to align everything. So if you have a logo on the right-hand side or the inside edge of your page, something in the middle, maybe a document title or a date, and then more information on the outside page edge, in other words, aligned with your page numbers, and that's all aligned with your margin. But what if you change the margins on your page? What if you go from a landscape or a portrait page to a landscape page? The old way of doing things, especially if you use a table to set up your header and footer, you would have to go in, and with every section break, every time you change the orientation of the page, you would have to also change the header. There is a way in Word for you to skip doing that manual intervention and let Word deal with and automatically adjust your headers and footers for you. And that's by using alignment tabs. And you may never have heard of them. You certainly aren't the only one. Alignment tabs orient the text in relation to the page, regardless of what size the page is or what orientation. And you need to know that these are only available in the header and footing setting. So that kind of tab is only available in the header and footing setting. They don't also appear on the ruler, which is a little frustrating. But you get used to thinking about that. You just learn that as you are dealing with headers and footers, you will know that you've used alignment tabs, and then you're safe. Other people editing your stuff might be a little confused, but that's their problem. That's their problem. I didn't say that out loud, did I? So you go into your header and footer tab tools in the design mode, and normally you don't need to set up an alignment tab for the left alignment or the inside page alignment. However, if you're dealing with headers and footers that are different on odd and even pages, you will sometimes need to actually say insert left aligned tab. You'll figure it out once you start using it. So you put your left aligned, your inside page item, let's say a logo, you hit insert center align tab and press OK, and your cursor will move forward to here, to the center, and you can type your document title. There we go. And then you click Insert Alignment tab again and say Right Alignment. And it will pop your cursor over to this side of your window. And this is when you're dealing with an odd-numbered page where you want to have or a single-sided page where you want to have something on the right-hand side of the page as well as the left-hand side of the page. Having done this, you can type your information and close the header and footer tool, and then no matter what orientation your page is in your document or the size of your document, so if you switch from portrait orientation 8.5 by 11 and go to an 11 by 17 page, it will still show up in the right page, in the right place on the page. It does save you an awful lot of time. And speaking of tabs, don't forget the Word is not a typewriter. This is one of the things I look for if I'm looking at people's resumes, especially for tech writers. If they send me a resume and they've got a lot of spaces in their resume and a lot of multiple tabs to get position text on the page in different places, I wouldn't hire them. I just wouldn't hire them. They don't know how to use Word. If that's, of course, important for the job. Don't hit the space bar. Don't hit the tab. Don't hit the enter key more than once for position text. Word is not a typewriter. Show the ruler, and that's easily done. You just click on View in your Word document and click off a checkbox that says Show the ruler. Once your ruler is there, I hope you can see my cursor moving around on the window. If not, I'm going to highlight these things.
Yeah, I see it.
Oh, good.
Great.
Okay. Thank you. This is where you can set a tab very, very, very easily. If you click in that little red box, it cycles between the different types of tabs that you can set. Some people, very advanced users of Word, don't know that there's this quick way to set tabs. They go into paragraph formatting and they right-click and they say set tab.
Okay, well, we will wait on you. Your webcam is fine. So we're having a little bit of technical difficulty. Virginia, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay, but I think we can't hear Mellissa right now. Let's see if I can get Mellissa back in.
Hello.
She's back.
I'm very sorry. Something happened to my telephone and I hung up on you. We're okay? We'll just keep going? I'm sorry.
Hey, we're learning today, aren't we?
Yes, we are learning. Make sure that you have your phone on. Do not interrupt. Do not disturb. Now, I don't think I'm in the same, place as I was. Can you see my cursor moving?
No.
No. Don't know that I am in the same session
I
now.
wonder. Let's see, I'm going to make you a host again.
Oh, there you go. That's probably what we needed. Yes,
So
we're good.
both Melissas are now a host, and I see your cursor moving. Is that what you wanted to do?
Yeah, okay. So you can nuke the other Mellissa.
Well, she doesn't have audio, so we'll just keep her where she is. It's all working okay now.
I think I was in the middle of a sentence saying that an awful lot, I've seen people who are very good users of Word, but they actually don't know that this is a quick way, clicking in this little field over here, is a quick way to change your tabs. And these are the different types of tabs that you can set in Word. There's a couple more, but I'm just going to cover off these ones. Your left aligned one looks like an L. Your center aligned tab looks like an upside down T. And what that does is center the word on both sides of the tab setting. Your right align will align with the ruler or with the right-hand side of your page, and you can line that right up with the margin if you want by moving it around. Just click and drag them. If you don't want a tab, click and drag it off into cyberspace, and it will go away. This one is called the decimal align tab, and it aligns on the decimal. So when you write a number, you could have any number, like millions, on the left-hand side of the decimal. And I will respond to that in a second, Virginia. Thank you very much. The two numbers will show up on the right-hand side, so it'll align on that decimal. The one that a lot of people don't understand about is this one. It's called, I forget what it's called, it has a name. And what it does is it will throw a line to show that you've changed content in the margin, in the inside margin or the left-hand margin. And that's where you set the tab, is where you want that line to appear. You can actually set it on the right-hand side as well. And just, it will go on for as many lines as you have before you change the, before you click the tab off. Okay, and you can select a block of text to set the tab in the same spot for that whole block of text. It can be for your whole document, but it will stay in effect as long as you haven't changed your paragraph. So one of our attendees has pointed out that sometimes people use spaces instead of tabs when they format a resume because of an applicant tracking system. Most, I could be wrong, but most applicant tracking systems will take information in RTS or rich text format. Rich text format can use tabs. Obviously, if there is the case when you need to have a resume that is being formatted for or being used and fed into another system, yeah, use spaces. But if you're sending it to someone as a Word doc, just be aware that some people know to go look and see how you formatted your document, because it tells them a lot about how you use Word. Or at least that's how I use it. Okay, there's a couple of other things. I have to move this along. If you do a lot of editing of other people's work and they may not be familiar with Word, for instance, they use a couple of hard returns to, or hard returns, in other words, paragraphs, they hit enter all the time to move things around. You can find extra empty paragraph marks by using search and replace. Investigate advanced find. I'll show you slides right after this that will show you the types of things that you can look for. But you should also, could also learn these shortcuts for looking for things in your document and automate to some extent. You can actually set up macros based on all of these and just run one macro that will search and replace all these things for you until there aren't anything to replace. And it very quickly helps you format other people's documents. So section breaks. Now, a lot of people will use section breaks without knowing what they do, and they're quite unnecessary, and they will mess up your headers and footers. So when I'm dealing with a very large document, I will automatically strip all the section breaks out and then reapply them. Then I know what I'm dealing with. I don't get any surprises. Manual page breaks. Again, a lot of people don't understand. Just like some people still use manual line breaks to get Word to line things up. There are cases when you need to do that, but for the most part you don't. And for the most part don't need to add in page breaks manually either. But you can search for these things and replace. You don't have to always, you can use search and replace or find and replace without always having printable characters to look for. Quick little reminder that if you have an odd number, if you're replacing two of something with one of something, and you start with an odd number, it will still end up leaving a couple of, it can still end up leaving duplicates. So you need to run the find and replace several times until you come up with nothing. So it says made 0 replacement. So when you are using, this is the advanced find window, or the search and replace, find and replace window, dialog box here. This little icon, the first time, the button, when you first come in, says more. When you click on it, it says less. I've clicked on it for the screenshot, so now you can see what more is. More is match case, find whole words only, use wildcard, which is pretty complicated, not for the faint of heart, and a couple of other options. But there are also finding and replacing things like format and special. So format, you can search for and replace fonts and paragraph marks, the settings that are in paragraphs. You can actually find this. This is the only way you can find highlighted words in your document. Where someone has applied highlights, this is the quickest way to find it, to replace it, unless you want to scroll through the whole document looking for it. Also, if you click the special key, you will come up with these things. And these are items that you can fill in, find what, replace with, this is a small selection of the items that you will find in this list. Okay.
Wow, that is all new to me. That is awesome, Mellissa.
There's a lot of things that you ever have time, and we just don't have time, right? But if you have time and can go wandering around or something, maybe when you're doing something and you only have a second, but click on something that you didn't know about and ask for help, like ask word help or Google. I'll be explaining that later because that is how I have learned most of what I know about words is searching Google and searching the help files, and it's amazing. Help files actually work. So one of those things when you're dealing with other people's documents, sometimes you have to cut and paste information in. Set your default paste action. This is also in advanced Word options, but have a click. I'm sorry, this is not the best resolution, but basically you can set your paste options for when you're pasting between documents within the same document and from other programs. So explore these. Take a few minutes, experiment with them, and figure them out. This one with the orange highlight is pretty key. When you're pasting stuff from other people's documents, don't bring in their numbering system. Don't. Try and paste text only without numbers, and that will save you an awful lot of time. However, even doing that, depending on the expertise of the person that you're using their document, bring their information in, you may end up with a document where they've actually typed in numbers like this. This is a document I was dealing with last week. So you actually would need to position your cursor right here at the beginning of this and hit delete about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times in order to get rid of those numbers. Or you can use the coolest thing I've ever learned about Word, which is that you can select text vertically. See the blue highlight here? Now normally when you select something on a Word page, you click, you hold your cursor down and you drag your cursor, and it's always a horizontal selection. It goes across the page and down. But with Word, if you hold the Alt key down while you're doing that, you can actually select a vertical selection of text. So with this, I could click delete, and it would take out all of those numbers and all of those spaces. I could go right back to the margin here and get rid of all of those numbers and the spaces and the tab mark and everything. You can even paste it, but it's really crazy behavior. So make sure that you remember Alt-Z, which undoes the last thing that you do, because you might have to practice a couple times to get it to paste right. And I will warn you, please don't do this. In a table where there are columns, there are other ways to work with tables. I purposely did not go into tables today. That could be the topic of a whole other series of webinars dealing with tables in Word. They can be crazy, just like dealing with numbering in Word. That could be a whole series too. So here you go. These are the instructions. Set the cursor at one corner of the block that you want to select, holding down the Alt key, move the mouse vertically up and down to select the block vertically, and I mean you have to do it horizontally as well. But you can select as little as 1 pixel, 1 space, up and down, and or the whole section back to the margin. Now, understanding section breaks. This is something that is so simple once you get it, but it takes a little while to understand. Now, and this is where I'm talking about Google. If you Google understanding section breaks in Word 2010, it works pretty much the same in all of Word. But you need to understand that section breaks they work backwards to what you think they're going to work. So, going to there we go. Sorry. Section breaks control formatting as needs in your document change, right? We talked about this slightly before when I was talking about the headers and footers that change width when you change from portrait to landscape. So it's impossible to do those kinds of changes within the same document unless you use the section break. So section break controls things up to the section break. The section break that you put in is controlling what happens before that section break. That's the confusing part. The section break controls the formatting of everything that precedes it until Word encounters another section break. So to insert a section break, you go to I'll show you that. I have a stand-up desk, and I'm really far more comfortable standing up than I am sitting down.
And you look beautiful standing up.
Oh, thank you very much. That's good. You go into layout. This is a screenshot from Word 2016. In 2010 and 13, I think it's called page layout still. And you look for the word break, and it comes up with a number of page breaks and section breaks. Here's where you put in section breaks. I will warn you right now, don't try and use continuous or even page breaks unless you know what you're doing. It takes a lot of experimentation. But use next page and on page frequently as you need to. Next page simply inserts the next page, and your page numbers will not skip. If you are ending on an odd page and you want to start the next section on an odd page, insert an odd page section break. You will create one blank page in your document. It will not have a page number on it. It will not have any headers or footers on it. It's just going to be a blank page. So be aware of that. And I will also warn you, find your section breaks before you create your document. At least think about it. You know that sometimes you want to have page numbering in lowercase Roman numerals at the beginning of your document. Maybe no page numbers whatsoever on your title page that precedes that. And then once you're in the body of your document, you want to have Arabic numerals starting at page 1. Those things are also controlled and only controlled. Well, actually, I can't say only controlled, but they're most easily controlled using section breaks. So do the sections first, and then start dealing with your headers and footers, because doing it that way you can use not keep it next, but same as previous. You can use the same as previous headings. Now that's another thing that confuses people a lot. I thought I had a section that explained that. Yes, it is here. Sections control the same as previous in headers and footers. And that's why it doesn't work the way you think it's going to work, because same as previous doesn't mean same as previous page. It means the same as the previous type of header footer in the previous section. So if you remember that and put it on a piece of paper and keep it near you while you're working with headers and footers through your first complicated document, it will really help. There are different kinds of headers and footers, ones that are different on the first page, or different on the left-hand page and the right-hand page, or the same all the way through. That's a type of header footer. And when you say, okay, keep this the same as the previous header footer, that's what Word is thinking about. Word assumes you mean in the previous section, the same type in the previous section. So I hope I didn't complicate that any more than I used to, but you have to get complicated to understand, and then it gets simple. So things that I also like, this could be the 9 things right here on this page. Changing case. When you're typing something, you've accidentally hit caps lock, you didn't know it, you want to take a whole selection, or someone else has written you something all in caps and you want to change it to all lowercase, select it, press Shift F3. Shift F3 will take you through first letter capitalized, all lowercase. Apply subscript. You can hit Control and the equal sign and start typing, and it will be subscript. Or you can cycle through. Do Control and Shift and equal. Breaking a line without starting a new paragraph. For instance, you have a list and you have point 1, but you have a second paragraph in point 1. It's not point 2, so you don't want to hit Enter, but you can use Shift and Enter to break a line without starting a new paragraph. Someone else has used styles. Thank God they actually knew what they were doing, but or no, they didn't use styles, and they've applied formatting to the font. So hit Control-D to make it bold. And you can remove all that formatting very quickly by clicking in the word and hit Control-Spacebar. You don't have to even select the whole word. Ditto with paragraph formatting, just hit Control-Q. It takes all the formatting that has been manually applied and gets you right back to your base style. Styles are so important in Word, and I hope you're all using them. If not, let us know and we'll put on another webinar. Make a space sound breaking. Say you say December the 15th, comma 2015, and you don't want a line break at the end of December that splits December from the word, from the numbers 15. So select that space that's in between the two and hit Control and Shift and Spacebar. Or better yet, that's if you're dealing with something that's already typed. Well, while you're typing December, go type December, Control Shift Spacebar 15, comma, Control Shift Spacebar, and the year. And then the whole date will stay together at all times. And it works, obviously, with words other than date. To make a hyphen non-breaking, say you want to say role specific, and you don't want role on one line and specific on the next line. You want it to stay together. Same thing, a non-breaking hyphen, Control plus Shift plus the dash, the hyphen. Undo an action, Alt backspace or Control Z. Redo an action, Shift and Alt backspace or Control and Y. And another favorite of mine, F4. F4 will repeat whatever last action you were doing, whatever last typing you were doing, it will actually like type the whole thing all over again. Just press F4, and that will work in Word and Excel very frequently. So if you're doing a lot of, I want to paste this here, do Control-V. You can use Control-V or you can use F4 to paste things. And one more for the road. Do you ever have a corrupt document, something that's not working well? You can't make it, you can't figure out what's going on, and it's a huge document. You can get really frustrated, or you can try this. Sometimes it's the very last paragraph mark that has whatever the problem is, because same as sections, as I talked about, the very last paragraph mark in your document has a ton of hidden information that only Word knows. It's in that last paragraph mark. So whatever problem you're having is probably in that last paragraph mark. And I just found out about a week and a half ago that the word for paragraph mark is pilcrow. Isn't that interesting? I love that word, pilcrow.
Now we've learned another thing.
I know, isn't that cool? So select your whole document. Do Control-A, and then back, holding down the Shift key, backspace from the last pilcrow. Now click Control-C to copy your entire document except that last one. Hit Control-N to open a new document, and hit Control-V to paste your content. Try that, save it, see if you can print it now, see if the headers and footers work. Maybe that's all it was. It's just some little corruption in your last full quote. And I think that is it for me. I'm a little bit over time. Thank you very much for attending. I hope that you enjoy this and the other one that is coming up now, which is Scott on mentoring. But you will get a link for all 4 recordings. And make sure that you come back when we do this again in the spring. Now that we've worked out all the bugs, we're going to have some far more interesting topics, I'm sure, that will be more related to instructional design and learning. And if you have any problems or need help with Word, feel free to email me. I only charge $100 an hour for one-on-one lessons. And I'm not kidding, but it never takes me an hour. I'll tell you that. So if you're staying for Scott's presentation on mentoring, please don't log out. Just stay connected. Go have your bathroom break, no problem. But leave your PC on this page. And if you need to log out and come back in, then...
And if you're going to the presentation on the body of knowledge, all you have to do is exit, and we have automatically programmed Adobe Connect to take you to the next right place. And hopefully that's going to work.
Do you click on that link? And it does.
Well, the link is definitely live. The link on the screen is live, but also when you exit Adobe Connect, it should take you to the next right room.
Really? Okay.
That's
Okay.
programmable.
That's cool.
Well, Mellissa, thank you so much. Are we ready to stop recording?
I just want to ask if there's any other questions. Virginia had the same question as I do. How do you exit without logging out? But that's okay. I think we understand now. If we close this, Adobe itself will log us into the next session. And then if we close that, we're out. Like, we don't want to attend that session. Is that correct?
That's right. We hope that it worked. It worked in test. I can just tell you that.
Right. Were there any questions about the content? Did I confuse anybody more than help? And not seeing any questions coming up in the chat. I think you can.